Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder why you might slow down after making a mistake? And does that actually help you do better next time? Well, this new study dives into exactly that, looking at kids in school. This study is all about something scientists call post-error slowing, or PS. Basically, it is that little pause we might take, or just a general slowing down right after we realize we've messed up on something. Think about it like this: if Susie, a fourth grader, is taking a test. If everything is going smoothly, she'll probably race through it. But if she hits a tricky question and gets it wrong, she might pause, feel a bit less confident, and maybe go a little slower on the next question to make sure she doesn't make the same mistake. The researchers in this study wanted to see if kids really do this when they're doing schoolwork like reading and math, and if it actually helps them. So, what is the big question here? The researchers wanted to know if kids, specifically in 2nd and 4th grade, show this post-error slowing when they're doing reading and math exercises. They also wanted to see if this slowing down changes as kids get older, and if it helps them be more accurate on the next try. They looked at kids twice over a 6-month period, which is pretty cool because it gives us both a snapshot of how things are at one time and how they change over time. They used tablet-based games for reading and math, which sounds like a fun way to study this. Before we dive into how they studied this, let's quickly talk about what PEEs is. Imagine a little speedometer in your brain that monitors how fast you are going. When you make a mistake, this speedometer might tap the brakes, making you go slower on the next task. This slowing down is PEs. The researchers also looked at something called post-error accuracy, or PE. This is simply asking, after slowing down, does the child actually get the next question, right? Ideally, PS should lead to better P. Now, how did they figure all this out? They worked with over 600 kids in 2nd and 4th grade from schools around Bern, Switzerland. They tested these kids on 2 different occasions, about 6 months apart. The tasks were an arithmetic test and a silent word reading test, both done on tablets. In the reading task, kids saw a word and had to pick the matching picture out of 4 options. In the math task, they saw an arithmetic problem and had to choose the correct answer from 2 options. They carefully recorded how fast the kids answered, and if they got it right or wrong to calculate PAs and P. They also made sure the tasks were age-appropriate, with simpler numbers for the 2nd graders and a bit more complex for the 4th graders. Looking at the overall numbers, it seems like kids were pretty good at both tasks. For example, in the arithmetic task for 2nd graders at the first testing, the accuracy was about 77%, and for 4th graders, it was also around 77%. In reading, it was even higher, around 77% for 2nd graders, and a solid 86% for 4th graders. This tells us that the kids weren't just randomly guessing. They were generally doing pretty well, which is important for seeing if post-error slowing is happening. So, did the kids show post-error slowing? Absolutely. In both reading and arithmetic across both grades and both times they were tested, kids consistently took longer to answer questions immediately after they made a mistake. This is great news because it means that even in academic tasks, kids seem to be monitoring their performance and adjusting their strategy. They are, in essence, looking out for errors and trying to correct course. This supports their first hypothesis that PS is indeed present in these kinds of school tasks. What about the age differences? The study found that 4th graders generally showed larger post-error slowing than 2nd graders, especially the first time they were tested. This might seem a little counterintuitive. You might think older kids would be faster and less affected by errors, but the researchers suggest that older kids might be even more sensitive to their mistakes. Or perhaps the tasks were more challenging for them, requiring more careful monitoring. This difference between the grades became smaller by the 2nd testing, suggesting that maybe the younger kids were catching up, or the older kids were becoming more efficient. Now, let's talk about changes over time. This is where things get really interesting. In the arithmetic task, the post-error slowing actually increased from the first testing to the 2nd testing, even though the kids were getting faster overall and more accurate. This increase was much bigger for the 2nd graders than for the 4th graders. The researchers interpret this as younger children learning to use their error signals more effectively, becoming better at slowing down and thinking things through after a mistake. For the older kids, the increase was smaller. In reading, the increase in post-error slowing over time was much smaller and didn't differ much between the grades. This suggests that the development of post-error adjustments might be different for different subjects. Math might require more active monitoring and strategy adjustment, even as kids get older, while reading might rely more on automated skills. This is the crucial part. Did slowing down actually help the kids do better? In arithmetic, the answer is mostly yes. They found that when kids slowed down more after an error, they were more likely to get the next arithmetic question right. This effect was strongest for the younger, second-grade children, especially at the first testing. They saw that for every bit that a second grader slowed down after an error, their chance of getting the next problem right increased significantly. For the fourth graders, the benefit of slowing down was there, but it was smaller. This suggests that in arithmetic, slowing down after a mistake is a helpful strategy for improving accuracy, especially for younger learners who are still developing these skills. It's like they are learning to be more careful when they detect a problem. However, in the reading task, the results were the opposite and quite surprising. Greater post-error slowing in reading was actually associated with lower post-error accuracy. That is, when kids slowed down more after a reading error, they were less likely to get the next reading question, right? This was particularly true for the fourth graders the first time they were tested. This negative relationship got weaker by the second testing for both grades. The researchers suggest that in reading, slowing down might not be a helpful strategy. Instead, it might indicate confusion, distraction, or an interruption of the fluent reading process, which is critical for comprehension. In reading, where speed and flow are so important, pausing might actually disrupt the brain's ability to process the next word effectively. So, what does all this mean? The study confirms that children do engage in post-error slowing in academic tasks, and this is a sign of their monitoring and control mechanisms at work. They are actively trying to manage their performance based on their errors. The fact that PS is larger in arithmetic than reading, and that it develops differently over time, highlights that these processes aren't the same across all school subjects. For arithmetic, slowing down appears to be a useful strategy, especially for younger kids, helping them improve their accuracy. This supports the idea that errors can be valuable learning opportunities, not just failures. It suggests that classroom practices for math might benefit from encouraging reflection on errors and balancing speed with accuracy. But for reading, slowing down after an error doesn't seem to help and might even be detrimental. This implies that error handling or intervention in reading might need a different approach. Perhaps focusing on feedback and guided rereading rather than speeded performance. This research also makes us think about how time tests in school, especially in arithmetic, might be measuring more than just subject knowledge. They might also be measuring a child's ability to monitor their performance and adjust their strategy, which is a different skill set. Now, it is important to remember that this study has some limitations. They looked at only 2 specific grades, 2nd and 4th, so we don't know about the years in between or when. These changes are most rapid also. The tasks were specific to arithmetic and reading, so we can't say for sure if these findings apply to other subjects. They also didn't directly measure things like a child's motivation or how much experience they had with these types of time tasks, which could all play a role. This research is really cool because it takes a concept from lab studies, post-error slowing, and shows it happening in real-world school situations. It tells us that children aren't just passively learning, they're actively monitoring their mistakes, and at least in arithmetic, learning to use those mistakes to get better. It nudges us to think about how we approach errors in education. Instead of seeing them as just wrong answers, they can be opportunities to learn and improve. For math educators and parents, recognizing and fostering these post-error adjustments could be key to helping kids succeed. For reading, though, it might mean we need to reconsider the emphasis on speed and focus on comprehension and fluency strategies that don't involve slowing down after every little stumble. Future research could explore this further by looking at a wider range of ages, different types of tasks, and even see if specific instructions or training can help children make their post-error adjustments more adaptive. Overall, this study gives us a valuable glimpse into how children's minds work when they're learning and growing. If you found this breakdown helpful, give this video a thumbs up. Leave a comment below with your thoughts on post-error slowing, and don't forget to subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more fascinating insights into psychology and the human mind. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.